All right, guys, welcome back to the second episode of the Gelpod. Thank you to everyone who watched the first one. Got good feedback, so I'm glad it turned out well. But we're back with a second episode, bigger and better things. So here is our second guest, Joel. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hey, so I'm Joel. I'm a Course 2A, and I'm a team coach, current Gel 2. Loving it so far. So, yeah.
Nice. So getting started, I just want to rewind a little bit and ask, why did you initially join Gel? How did you hear about the program? What interested you in it? Yeah.
So there were a couple of older guys in my fraternity who were in Gel, and they saw me as somebody that was going to potentially be like a leader within that organization. So the person specifically, actually, he told me like, hey, like, I think this would really be good for you. It would help you develop skills that you would be able to apply like within the organization. And he told me honestly it was a lot of fun, and it did look like a lot of fun.
Okay.
So I gave it a shot.
Nice. And then why did you decide to stick with the program? Like, what about Gel gave you enough value that you decided to keep going, keep putting time into it?
I think the biggest thing is that I was really seeing results from it. Like, I learned pretty quickly Gel is one of those things you get out what you put in.
Sure.
Like, there are a lot of people where it's like they do a lot, and they speak so highly of the program, and I feel like that's for a reason. And I started to see those results and see that, and I was like, okay, I want to take this further, and I want to like continue to learn and grow from this.
That's dope. It was similar for me. I was in Solar Car, and a bunch of the older members were like, you should do Gel. It's so good. I was like, okay, I respect y'all. I'll see what the program's about. And it worked out. It's cool. Was there a moment that you kind of realized like, oh, I'm really seeing results from Gel? This is like useful.
I don't think there was one singular moment. I'd say it was more like a shift in my attitude and like the way I approached certain situations. And when I thought about them and whenever I reflected back on them, I was like, dang, I would have handled that way worse a couple months ago. Because there's just little lessons you learn that kind of really stick with you. So it's like when those lessons are in your head and you act like according to like what you learned from them. I think it's just like a thing where one day you'll look back and be like, okay, I've made progress, you know?
That's cool. And I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but like those tiny little lessons you learned in Gel 1, do you feel like they've helped you as a team coach?
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing for me as a Gel 1 was I wasn't like afraid to make mistakes. So having made a lot of mistakes, now that I'm a team coach and I see the people in my team make similar mistakes, I kind of know more where to guide them and know what advice I can give them. And relate it not just to the lab, but to the real world too, you know?
That's cool. Yeah, this actually segues really nicely into our next segment. I want to talk a bit about team coaching. Team coaching is a really cool role. Last week we had Ava, who's kind of like on top of the Gel program. Team coaches are really like down on the ground.
Yeah.
They're like with the Gel 1s. And I think with that comes like a ton of responsibility, right? It's like, I remember my Gel 2s, my team coaches were like incredible and that made Gel really great. On the flip side, there's the possibility that if your Gel 2 is not so great, it's like what their experience is going to be like. Yeah. So as a team coach, coming in, what were your feelings about being in that position? How'd you handle the responsibility?
I mean, I was honestly just very excited. I was looking forward to it, and I think the people in my team, they feel that excitement, right? And one of the first things I tried to do as soon as I learned everybody's names is immediately like do some team bonding. I think it was just good to like start off with like a positive energy and with a positive tone as early in the semester as possible, because I knew, having been a Gel 1 and just in general being a student, once the semester starts getting later and later, energy goes down, morale goes down, final seasons hit, and everybody's in the trenches. So yeah, definitely just wanted to start off on like a really positive and exciting foot and make them realize like, okay, it's not just I go into lab, do the lab and leave, but also it's if I have any questions, these are people I can talk to about it. If I think there's something fun in Boston that we could do, I can message in our like group chat and let them know, that type of thing.
Yeah. I definitely think it worked. We're in the same section for like context. So I like see his team doing stuff, and I definitely think it worked. I remember seeing your hot pot picture, and you guys looked like you were having a blast.
Yeah.
I remember when you were planning for stuff, you were like, you mentioned the ideas that your team sent you, and they were like crazy ideas.
Yeah.
They were like, we should go karting or something.
Yeah, they wanted to do like the F1 go karting.
Yeah. So I definitely think it worked. So
yeah,
congrats on that.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch on, since we're later in the semester now, how your team has kind of developed and evolved. You mentioned that you yourself learned a lot over the course of Gel 1. As you've like watched your Gel 1s, seen them participate in labs, watched them grow, got to know them better, and also seen like your team as a whole, right, develop. Has your approach to team coaching and the way you interact with them changed?
I'd say my approach definitely has changed. At the beginning, I'd kind of have to give them a couple more hints during the lab. Like there were some instances where they were just very lost, and I was like, I don't know, but I think maybe, just like a little nudge, not giving them the answer, but nudging them. Now that the semester has progressed, they definitely feel a lot more comfortable with each other, which is a giant part of it. Just like having seen each other on a weekly basis for as long as they have now, they're a lot more comfortable. Confrontation isn't the right word, but they're a lot more comfortable speaking up for their own ideas and being able to like discuss those ideas with each other, even if they're conflicting. And I think that plays a major role, like in the labs and also in the workplace, regardless, because sometimes you're gonna have different ideas than someone else, right? So that's the biggest change I've seen with them. Just a lot more confidence heading into the labs, a lot more confidence, discussing ideas with each other, and at the end of the labs, just being generally more receptive to feedback, because I think that the feedback part is the one that, if you haven't ever experienced it before, that's like the weirdest part of Gel 1. At least for me, it was kind of the weirdest part for Gel 1. I was like, oh, okay, I'm like getting graded, and then sat down immediately after the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. How'd you approach giving feedback to your Gel 1s?
So one thing I always try to do is I always try to just leave them with something that they can actually use. Because it's easy sometimes giving feedback to just be like, oh, okay, you did this wrong, but for the lab, you should have done this. I always think it's better to kind of like zoom out of that, not just look at, okay, what could have worked for the lab, but what's going to help them again in the workplace, because at the end of the day, that's all our goals is to just like get a job and be good at that job, be effective leaders within that job, right? So just picking up notes throughout the lab, and then finding like one central theme that I think they can apply, not just in the lab but in general, and that really resonates with them, because there's a lot of like smaller points and smaller feedback. But if you can just tie it into one main message, I think that helps them really remember it and learn from it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I definitely think, having read your, again, we're in the same section, so I read his yellow cards. Having read your yellow cards, I definitely think they're always like really practical. That's part of the reason I wanted to interview you. I was like, dang, if this dude writes good yellow cards, he's probably good at yapping. So I was like, let me talk to him.
Yeah, people say I'm good at yapping, so take it as a compliment.
Nice. As you were kind of getting your Gel 1s accustomed to like taking that feedback, and as they were learning, were there any like particularly growing pain challenge moments you had that you were unexpected, that you had to like learn how to navigate?
I can't really think of any specific instances. I'd say it was definitely a learning curve, getting used to being the one giving the feedback after being the one just receiving the feedback for so long. It's a completely different skill, so I'd say this wasn't so much related to like my Gel 1s, but as like me personally, I was kind of taken aback, like, oh, okay, like this is way different. It's almost like being a manager now compared to just like having been a member of whatever team. You have to like really be critical and be observant in a way that you didn't have to during Gel 1.
Yeah. So moving on to kind of you as an individual outside of Gel, what are you doing on campus in Greater Boston? What are you up to?
So I was president of my fraternity last semester. That was a lot of fun. And I've been Europping at the Therapeutic Technologies Design and Development Lab. That's a mouthful. So I've been Europping there since the summer, and I stayed on for the semester just because I really enjoyed it and I enjoy my team. So, yeah.
Okay. On the Europe side of things, because I definitely think it's interesting, Gel often has like an explicit industry focus, but I've often found that it's useful in other contexts as well. So in a research context, how have you found Gel's helped you?
I'd say definitely the biggest thing has been communication, and more communication. Research is pretty unorganized as a whole, especially when you're comparing it to like a 9-to-5 internship where there's a lot more structure instead of being like on a smaller team with a grad student who's trying to graduate and all that. So the biggest thing was just like being confident in speaking up and knowing how to effectively communicate with people above me. That's something that I definitely learned from Gel and something that definitely helped me over the summer. Because sometimes, your supervisors might not be as responsive as you wanted, this, that, the other, and you just have to know how to give them a friendly little bump and give them a friendly update of what it is you've done so far, I think it was definitely different for me since I was the only undergraduate on my project.
Okay.
I'm working in like a very small team, so it was a lot of one-to-one communication, and then after like that one-to-one talking to the PIs and stuff like that. So just helped me navigate how to communicate, helped me navigate how to, try to take initiative even though I'm an undergraduate, not being scared to voice my ideas, even if, I'm just an undergraduate researcher. Like I can still have ideas and you can still have ideas. And if you think it's a good idea, one skill that Gel definitely teaches you is to advocate for yourself and to make your voice be heard in a way that isn't too overbearing but is firm.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point. I remember after one lab you came up to me and you were like, "Oh, my team thinks that the scores were wrong, and like I wanted to talk to you to make sure that like this gets like corrected later." And I was like, "Dang, he's really putting advocacy to work right now." I think that was like one of the negotiation compromise labs, but it was like right before the advocacy lab too. So you were really being an example to your team.
No,
so
they were a little upset.
We do our best on grading, speaking from comp side, but anyways. Yeah, and then looking ahead to kind of like post-grad stuff, another big part of Gel is kind of like developing a vision for the long term, right? How has Gel played into thinking about post-grad plans?
So when it comes to my post-grad plans, I was always somebody who was pretty undecided. And coming into MIT, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do. It wasn't like I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do course 6 and I'm going to kill it as a SWE, I was pretty like up in the air. I think kind of in tandem with doing Gel, just being able to like concentrate, I'm course 2 now, concentrate on that and concentrate on the medical device space. It just like, it feels good to help people. And I see myself like, through Gel and through working on the medical devices and stuff like that, like being able to help people and being able to like help lead myself and carry myself in a way that like I feel satisfied with. So a big part of it too was just having those team coaches to talk to when you're a little uncertain, or having the industry guests to talk to, because a lot of times the industry guests at the end of the lab, nobody goes up to talk to them. And I just kind of cringe a little bit because these are like these people are so legit, right? And they have so much wisdom to give. So it definitely just helped like clarify a lot of things for me in terms of not just what type of career I want to do, but like what type of person do I want to be in that career? I don't just want to be another, okay, yeah, I'll do what I'm told. I want to be somebody who's taking initiative. I want to be somebody who hopefully one day is leading projects and helping lead people because that's what I enjoy, and I found I enjoy that through gel and through the fraternity and through all these other things, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. For me too, I think like one of the most valuable things I got out of gel was like tying that into other aspects of my experience, and really like realizing like, oh, like gel is useful in isolation, but like I think it's most useful because like those skills I'm practicing are skills that I'm like gonna apply anywhere. Like I don't know, I often find it funny, like sometimes you have to have a conversation with a friend about something where it's like, that rubbed off the wrong way, and like in my head I'm like, oh, that's ID right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I think
Those acronyms never leave your head.
They never do. It's terrible. You will start talking in gel speak. It's good though.
It happens.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the pod.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any last shout outs, things you want to say?
Just want to shout out Rohan Wag and Faith Bulan for convincing me to do gel.
Okay.
It's been great so far. Having a lot of fun. Shout out my team, SEAL Team 6, as we call ourselves. Team 6, 1 p.m. You guys are the GOATs.
Nice.
That's it for me. No more shout outs.
Nice. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, man.